This year, we're going to do something a little different, kind of get everybody warmed up. We've picked out some music, and we're here at the Lincoln Center. We've got some theater experts here at the Lincoln Center, and we want to start with a little bit of improv dance choreography. And we're starting with the back row. Come on down.
Get us off, Clark.
Oh, we don't have time? Okay, just the awards. We're still so happy to welcome you here. This is the 7th Urban Design Awards gathering of the Community Design Community. By the way, after this event, you tell me if you think we should rename the program to Community Design Awards rather than Urban Design Awards. I've been wondering about that, looking through these projects. Clark Mapes here, one of your city planners, Shauna Van Zee, will be speaking to you tonight, also presenting these things. It's been pure enjoyment, so enjoyable, enriching, edifying, whatever you can say, seeing first of all, the selection committee deliberations, and then seeing the stories of your work that we'll be scratching the surface of here presenting tonight. Initiative, talent, discipline, you know all about that, that goes into bringing cool projects to life. We're fortunate and happy to have City Council member Shirley Peel here with some thoughts to share about this event from her perspective.
So, good evening, everyone. I am Shirley Peel. I represent District 4 in the city of Fort Collins. And most of you probably know that the mayor was supposed to be here tonight, and unfortunately she couldn't be here. So I was tapped to take her place. And so if you know our mayor, I'm about a foot taller than she is. Taller if I have heels on. So I'm just going to say you're getting your taxpayer money worth tonight. So, sorry. Just kidding. We really, really love our mini mayor at the city of Fort Collins. And I had lunch with her today, and she was okay with me making jokes. So anyway, so I do want to welcome everyone. And I do want to thank you for joining us this evening for the 2022 Urban Design Awards. And tonight we are gathered here to celebrate those of you who shape, design, and build Fort Collins. We're also here to recognize the work that goes into keeping Fort Collins special. And as you know, that's really hard to do. It's really hard as we grow to keep the spirit of Fort Collins the same. But through your design, planning, and construction, decade after decade, I feel like that we're doing a pretty good job. So for those of you who interact directly with city regulations and processes, which we all know is no small task, we appreciate your commitment to working in good faith as partners, shaping and caring for a community we all love so dearly. So on behalf of the mayor and the Fort Collins City Council, I want to offer congratulations to all of our entries and honorees. I understand that narrowing the list of the final projects was a nearly impossible task, as each and every project entry was deserving of recognition. Our city is filled with special touches and moments that make it a distinctive and memorable place. The fact that we're able to host such a special event tonight speaks to the creativity, the intention, and commitment of our local design community. I'm personally honored to be in the company of so many who share a passion of great places and strong communities, and I look forward to learning more about each of the winners tonight. Thank you again for coming, and thank you for your continued investment in our city. And now it is my honor and pleasure to introduce our rock star city manager, Kelly DiMartino.
All right, good evening, everyone. It's great to be here. So I have to just acknowledge, I think this is like the first sort of official event that I have presented at as the ongoing city manager, where the previous city manager is sitting right in my eyesight, like staring at me. So it also seems fitting that, you know, as a community, when we talk about transitions, one of the things that Darren used to talk about was when you have transition in a staff perspective, there's a sadness that comes with that, and then there's also an opportunity that comes with that. And I think that's true when we talk about our community as well, right? We know that sometimes when we have projects, there might be a little bit of sadness or loss, but there's also such great opportunity that comes. And so tonight, I'm really excited that we're here and we're getting to celebrate the spirit of design, development, and building community, and really how those great projects come to be. As Clark and others have said, it's the 7th event, and it's great to see how it has grown and changed over the years. I do want to formally recognize our sponsor this evening, Elevations Credit Union. Again, they are a great community partner, and again, there's a really nice and neat tie here in that in 2006, Darren, who is now with Elevations, was actually very instrumental in initiating this event and really talking about the importance of planning and design and community collaboration. I know our former mayor is here as well, and he too is just such a champion for the importance of community design and community architecture. So it's really exciting to see in the community that we have just that foundation and continue to build and grow. For more than 40 of you who answered the call for entries, we really appreciate your passions, your talents, your commitment to a well-designed community. Not every place in the country has this, and part of what makes Fort Collins so special is the collaboration and the intentionality of all of those community partners and of you who are invested in our community, and so we thank you for that. Our selection committee had to pick just 12 winners, and as Councilmember Peel said, they had a really, really challenging task on their hands. So I want to actually recognize and thank those people who were our selection committee. So there were 7 of you, and I'm going to ask them to stand. It's a little dark out there, but stand and wave your hand. We will applaud when we've gone through all 7 of them. So I'm going to start with Ann Nelson. She is an architect with over 15 years of experience, currently working at AU Workshop, and serves on our Historic Preservation Committee, and was also a recent BizWest 40 Under 40 honoree. So Ann, yes, is down here. We're going to clap for her in a moment. Keep standing. I feel like you're first. You should get a stand the whole time. And joining you quickly will be Cameron Gloss. Cameron was twice the city's former city planning director and is now planning and design firm Logan Simpson with them. And Cameron, are you here? I didn't see Cameron earlier. I'm squinting. Okay. I don't know why he didn't want to come back to the city for a 3rd time. All right, next is Karen Champagne. Karen is our Director of Cities Planning, Development, and Transportation Department, and she really has a passion and special interest in urban design. We're so grateful to have her on our team. Next, Fred Habrecht. Fred, are you here? He is a recently retired landscaped architect, planner, and arborist with CSU Facilities Management. Ralph Shields. Ralph is a designer and construction superintendent with Bellissimo Development. Ralph is also a past award winner with a background in architecture and urban design. All right, 2 more, and then you get a clap. Julie Stackhouse is our former executive vice president of the Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis and is currently a member of the Fort Collins Planning and Zoning Commission. And last but not least is David Suckling, an energy services engineer with Fort Collins Utilities, and he manages our city's integrated design assistance program. Okay, now you can clap for this committee. Thank you to the committee. Thank you again to all of you who are here. We really appreciate your contributions, and we just appreciate you sharing your time with us tonight as we get to celebrate this sense of building community. And with that, I am pleased to get to introduce to you Karen Champagne, again, the city's Planning, Development, and Transportation Director. Thanks, Karen.
Thank you so much, Kelly, and thanks. I just wanted to join the fun of the comments tonight to represent a little bit of the selection committee conversation. And behind me, you can see the categories that the nominations were filtered through and discussed at great length in the conversation. So, but we really use those categories as a framework because, as you all know, design doesn't fit in a box. So it was just a great way for us to jump off the discussions and discuss the merits. But it was a really interesting mix of folks, as Kelly was describing. There was a diversity of experience and perspectives in our conversation. So it really led to some great discussion and hopefully inspired some improvements going forward, as well as some things you'll see tonight in the winners. We also felt that, a little bit of the break during the pandemic kind of allowed us an opportunity to just pause and think differently about what does design mean in our community and how does it truly impact Fort Collins specifically. And it was interesting to hear the conversations because it really, the conversations really didn't focus so much on articulation and building materials and enclosure ratios and all of those really technical, exciting things. We really just gravitated to the stories behind the design. That's what inspired us. That's what drove our conversations. And also just seeing and thinking about the creation of space that was made for community members to gather and interact again. That got us excited as we went through the nominations. And we even got into some really interesting discussions about the collective impact of multiple nominations. So how does art in public places work together with a building as well as streetscape design? So it was fun to really think about the projects not only as they stood alone, but also how they worked together in our community. And one example that I'll highlight, because it's a good transition to where we want to go next with the discussion, is really just around, we had a lot of focus around the Poudre River. And so we want to make sure that we're acknowledging the history and the heritage of the Poudre River in this conversation, especially because it's important for us to know that that we have to think about that where the land is founded on in Fort Collins, and it's along the river, and the Cache la Poudre has such a rich history of its own. It has its own stories to tell. So we wanted to bring up Shauna Van Zee to just tell a little bit more about that history as we go into recognizing the winners for this evening. So thanks so much. Shauna.
Good evening, everyone. We're here tonight celebrating the creative and intentional work of our community that supports a unique sense of place here as the city evolves. With that, it is impossible not to notice tonight that 3 of the projects being awarded are right on the location of the U.S. Army outpost that was established here in 1864, Camp Collins. The fort itself quickly became irrelevant as it was established at the tail end of the armed conflict between settlers and indigenous peoples, which later became known as the Colorado War and is infamous for the Sand Creek Massacre. So while the site marked the beginning of the town of Fort Collins, it also marked the forced removal and end of life as they had known it to the people of the Arapaho, Cheyenne, Lakota, Pawnee, Ute, and other tribes of the North American plains who lived on the land around the Poudre River. Tonight, we, as the Urban Design Awards team, acknowledge with respect that the land we are on today is the traditional and ancestral homelands of the Arapaho, Cheyenne, and Ute nations and peoples. This was also a site of trade, gathering, and healing for numerous other native tribes. We recognize the indigenous peoples as original stewards of this land, and all the relatives within it. As these words of acknowledgement are spoken and heard, the ties nations have to their traditional homelands are renewed and reaffirmed. This acknowledgement is the education and inclusion we must practice in recognizing our institutional history, responsibility, and commitment.
New this year, we felt that we have to show you all of the projects that were submitted. I've got to watch out here. Jeez. It's a good thing you can't see my screen. I don't know where it is.
Music and dancing?
Yes, be ready, be ready. Back row, be ready. All of the projects that were entered and that are not being presented with awards, it was clear, you've heard that from the committee, any or all of these deserve recognition. The line between the projects getting awards and not, well, there is no line. So with that, we're just going to flash through all of the projects. Okay, so yeah, imagine you're on that committee. You heard from Karen about the committee's thoughtful award for the Hall of Fame this time, which went to a project that was not entered in the Hall of Fame, the transformer cabinets. There was an excellent entry for the Hall of Fame award for John Shaw and his firm Da Vinci Signs, which has designed, fabricated, and installed a large portion of Old Town Fort Collins signage over a period of, I actually personally knew John in the 80s, so whatever that is, 30, 40. And that signage has significantly contributed to the eclectic charm of Old Town. So here again, we're just going to look at some of this. So yeah, this was a compelling entry, very much appreciated, and I expect to see this again next time. And yeah, you can imagine what, cities that don't have a person like this doing their signs in their downtown, how much different it could be. With that, are we ready for the projects that do have awards? Yes. Let's see the projects that the committee did select. Starting in the category for urban design plan, which is for a plan or study that provides a mid to long-term development strategy with inspirational value and potential for significant impact. So the way this will work, the Bloom team that's here can walk down and wait here. While I present the project. The award for Bloom is for a master plan for creating pollinator habitat that would run through a large new mixed neighborhood development that's approved in eastern Fort Collins between Mulberry and Vine. Developer is Hartford Homes. The overall plan is 229 acres, and it is called, yes, it's called Bloom. The whole plan is called Bloom. When you hear the word pollinators, maybe you realize that is hundreds and hundreds of species of native bees, butterflies, moths, wasps, hummingbirds, flies, beetles. I hope I'm not leaving anyone out here. In addition to the honeybees that you see all the time, some of us are just starting to learn about this, and it looks like this master plan will be part of all of us always learning more about what nature in the city can mean, integrating with natural systems, and creating beauty and landscaping that's appropriate for our region. Cooper Slough is a north-south drainage way, pretty nondescript right now, frankly, that runs just to the east of Bloom, runs north and south, and Bloom includes a network of landscape and trail corridors that connects with larger long-term goals for Cooper Slough as a always improving north-south habitat corridor, and Cooper Slough being a tributary to the Poudre River. The special landscaping also is planned to form a spot of beauty and interest along Mulberry as you enter the city, with plantings in and around a new intersection with a roundabout at Greenfields Drive in Mulberry. There's been a lot of discussion about supporting pollinators in city landscaping in a number of different processes with the city, and some of you may know what I'm talking about with some of the nature in the city and so forth. But there hasn't been a practical guide for a developer on integrating habitat into a design framework. This master plan meets that need, at least as a first step, to be followed in phases as the plan for the neighborhood gets built over the years and over the 229 acres. Norris Design collaborated with city staff to develop guidelines for the planning, design, and best practices to establish and maintain this landscape, with maintenance possibly being the most critical challenge to really make this work. With that, we offer the team that worked on this a few seconds.
Great. Thanks, Clark. And as Clark mentioned, you were one of those that we worked closely with. Scott Benton in Environmental Planning, who's out here somewhere in the audience, was actually the one who was sort of a catalyst for us to decide how can we take a goal in the PUD to enhance pollinator habitat and actually create a guide to make that actually happen, and provide the city with a reviewable framework, for our project as it goes through multiple phases of design. And certainly as landscape architects and planners, we love plants. We love creating spaces for people, but also great places for habitat and places that really create that placemaking experience. So Zoe McLaughlin from Norris Design, a landscape designer, is part of our pollinator Power Rangers at Norris Design. So we have an internal initiative to make sure we're all educated about the importance of this and getting that integrated into our projects. And Dave Thorpe from Hartford Homes, as a client and owner, he is willing to take a risk to have us figure out how we can implement this throughout their community, all the way down to the development agreement, and make sure that we have a maintainable, establishable habitat over time. So really proud to be a part of this project, and really appreciate being acknowledged with this great group of projects. Thanks.
Y'all can step over this way.
Yeah, your whole team.
Thank you, guys.
Up next is our architecture category. This category is intended to celebrate buildings that foster community pride, contribute to our unique place, inspire, educate, raise awareness, and prompt conversation. So I'd like to invite the Brothers Barbecue team down. Brothers Barbecue was founded by two brothers in a converted mechanic garage in Denver because of their love of barbecue. Fast forward to a few years ago when they looked north to Fort Collins and discovered this property, realizing it was exactly the right kind of property for them. They brought forward a concept which they personally pursued with the help of an individual architect who put their vision on paper and was able to turn that vision into what we see today. Their initial inspiration and objective was to recreate the original historic character of the gas station built in 1961 when the site was still outside of city limits. This was an early graphic showing their concept on the top, the 1961 Frontier gas station, and the condition of the building, which had been altered with the removal of the garage doors. Nothing about the plan could possibly be designed and built to today's standards on the property. Not the streets or the sidewalks, not the building placement, not the driveway spacing, not the parking lot or the landscaping or the lack of access from the surrounding neighborhoods. So needless to say, it was a challenge. Nothing about the plan could possibly be, one thing was consistent with today's standards, and that was the basic vision to reuse and rehabilitate the 60s era building. The brothers worked through plan iterations on detailed solutions to every challenging component of this property in the building. From the start, they wanted to replace 3 of the 8 letters in Frontier and then replicate that in a new 8-letter sign. A pretty cool idea. The entire property was transformed, including the below-ground gas tanks that had to be removed. Driveways were removed and shrunk to accommodate the new sidewalks and street trees. And all new paving was installed, and they were happy to install irrigation, landscaping, and crosswalks to the building. This project was an all-in commitment to both the history and to collaborating with the city, with no blinking an eye at all the challenges ahead of them. A true labor of love.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. We really love being part of the Fort Collins community and working with the city. We've worked with many cities across Colorado. We've got 8 locations across Colorado, so we've worked in different cities. And this was the first time where we came to a city planning meeting, and specifically with Clark, where he shared the same sort of excitement that we had for this project. And we could see, I mean, you saw how dilapidated it was, but we could see the vision of this.
I thought it was beautiful.
Yeah. And Clark had that same vision, and we were so excited, and Clark was the one that figured out that Frontier had the same amount of letters that Brothers did. And he goes, oh, we can do the sign like this. And so we worked with him, and that was during COVID. And so we pulled tanks November of 2019, and so we were ready to go, but we still had, the city still worked with us during 2020 when everything got shut down. So obviously we did a lot of emails, but we were still able to push through.
And Zoom meetings.
Yeah, lots of Zoom. But it was important for us to know that we were so excited to be part of this community that they were excited to have us here as well. And so now we've continued to grow our community roots here, and we've got Ramtown opening up in the CSU Stadium on Saturday, and we're part of the Rams football, so go Rams, and we love being here in Fort Collins.
Thanks, everyone.
Wow, I can't beat that as a experience at this job. This project is right at the origin of Fort Collins, near the center of the parade ground from that 1864 military outpost. Again, Fort Collins' raison d'etre. Confluence fits with recent decades of community planning for the River District on its continuum from settlement to dump and ag industrial edge of town to integral extension of today's downtown with its own vision and set of design guidelines as a sub-district. It's sandwiched between historically eligible properties, two sides, The massing steps down and sets back in a number of locations in deference to those. It's mixed use in the truest sense: retail, commercial spaces along the sidewalk, second-level creative office space, upper-level housing, and concealed parking. The residences feature terraces with views of the city and mountains. Courtyards provide welcoming spaces and connections to the pedestrian environment, and they join multiple modules in the dynamic building massing. A public plaza at Linden and Willow Streets was developed by the city in conjunction with Confluence and with input from the Confluence design team, and was constructed by the Confluence contractor in a huge collaboration. And there, I just did it again. The architecture responds to the history and vision for the River District, done in a style of Colorado town is what the architects were shooting for, with weathering steel, board-formed concrete, wood, local sandstone, and brick. Zoning and historic preservation requirements helped create the dynamic massing shifts that you see. And Confluence was also a deep collaboration between the architect, who assembled the land and was also on the development team, and the developer, who was also the contractor, and the Fort Collins DDA also was a valuable collaborator. The architects/developers wanted to add something special to highlight the location and the time of Fort Collins' beginning and the frontier's end. Their extra efforts led to this art piece with words cut out of weathering steel to capture light and broadcast these words onto the adjacent paving day and night. It's a quote from early settler J.R. Todd: "Before settlement profoundly changed this region." You read it.
The sky was scarcely ever obscured by clouds, and its vaulted blue, golden tinted in the morning and evening, was like a dream of beauty. Not an axe had marred the symmetry of the groves of trees that lined the banks. Not a plow or spade or hoe had ever broken its virgin soil. Wild flowers of the richest hue beautified the landscape, while above all towered the majestic Rocky Mountains to the westward of the valley. Like the grim sentinels, they are, even watching, and noticing this advancing vanguard of civilization.
I can hardly read that without cracking up, breaking up. Randy. So, Randy, Jason, AU Workshop. Get up here on the left.
We really couldn't have done this project without a great development partner in Saunders Development and Saunders Construction. We also couldn't have done it without really working with the city to figure out how to push all the buttons that we could to make the zoning code work in the way we felt it really needed to. We never broke any rules, but we just knew that if we just turned the knob just a little bit more, they would eventually say yes. That Winston Churchill said that we shape our buildings and thereafter they shape us. And we take this responsibility really seriously. We really want to make Fort Collins a great place. And every project that we take on, we want to have it be a contributor to both the street and the neighborhood and the overall city. And we really appreciate you for recognizing the work that we did here, and thank you.
Now I'd like to invite the Platte River Power Authority team up. The Platte River Power Authority, or PRPA, has been the power utility provider to Fort Collins, Loveland, Longmont, and Estes Park for nearly 50 years with safe, reliable, environmentally responsible, and financially sustainable energy and services. They built the first headquarters for their operations at Horsetooth and Timberline with an iconic campus development in 1978. After decades of operations and growth, the facilities and operations had reached the point where they needed upgrades, which led them to the decision to replace the facility. They decided to build around the existing building so they could continue full operations through the construction, which was an extra difficult challenge on this project. They recreated the unique qualities of the Horsetooth campus and created an entirely new vision that showcases Platte River's innovative work and regional impacts. The architecture invites your attention and enjoyment from a distance with light, shadow, and reflection, and the closer you get, the more there is to appreciate. Now I'd like to invite the team up to share more of their story.
So our design team was really quite large, and so this is just from one architect's perspective. When you get a chance to work with Platte River, you're really going to enjoy it. It's a good owner, and Jeff Menard, the tall guy here, is great to work with. His facility team is really good, and it was a joy. From the site plan layout perspective, the concept is probably, you recognize it, it's pretty simple. These are my props. You take a standard office block, which tends to look like this, and what we did is we faced it south to Horsetooth, we pulled it apart, then we spread it out. So what happens is it screens the parking that's to the back. You don't see any of that from the street. And then the space between the blocks becomes a two-story atrium. Next. Oh, back one. So we identified 3 foreground elements. One is on the right, that's the public meeting community room. The main entry is on the left, it faces Horsetooth, and then the meeting room's on the corner. And then the third element is actually the pond. So those 3 elements are colored gray, like you'd find in the deep shadows at our altitude. Next. The background elements are the tan colors that you would see in our natural grasses and in our stones. And so what we tried to do is work with the city standards of base, middle, top, but not do a gravity-based interpretation, but rather do a fabric. So a fabric wraps the building the way clothing wraps your body. And then we tried to pay a little bit of attention to texture, color, pattern, just to make it a little bit more contemporary and a little bit more interesting. The space between the 2 blocks that I was telling you about is a lot like one of the alleys in our downtown, Old Town area in terms of size and scale. And so we let the outside materials in, and that includes the paving, the woods, and the stone. Next. The reason you don't see mechanical on the rooftop, the lines are very clean. There are some solar panels up there that are hidden behind the low parapets. They provide a lot of energy for the building. But most of the mechanical is buried in the bottom of the pond. So the photographs on the right are the pond before it was filled with water. And then I wanted to point out what Angie with BHA Design did on the right side, as well as creating a wonderful buffer between the building and the road. She also took our fire lane, which could be pretty hideous, and made it a really nice public sidewalk. And then in closing, on behalf of us, and I want to thank the community for offering us encouragement. It's really appreciated.
Some of these people are going to get tired. Next, the Poudre Garage team can come on down. You just saw this team at Confluence. The committee was sort of blind as far as, they're not going by, who's doing what, who's getting how many awards. Poudre Garage is an already multi-award winning renovation of an addition to the historic landmark Forest Service building on Remington Street. The project derives its design from the Art Deco styling, massing, and materiality of the original building. AU Workshop gave complete care and attention to the important aspects of the original building, but adapted them to the new construction using today's materials and methods to distinguish the new from the historic construction. which is an ideal approach under the city's planning vision for historic downtown and the Secretary of Interior's standards for design that affects historic resources. The design also derives from careful respect for its historic neighbors. That's why you see the brick garage on the right here. The small site was tightly constrained. The project required special variances for a number of things, such as the parking, which doesn't really meet our standards for new developments, and the electric transformer, which had to be experimentally located underground. I had not heard of that. I have to say, don't get any ideas. I don't know if those things are repeatable, but kind of fits with what you just heard from this team on Confluence. The architectural panels drew a lot of scrutiny to the joints, color, texture, the way the top is finished. And during facade renovations on the original building, the glass light sconces were unfortunately damaged. To restore this crucial little piece of the character, the architects designed and 3D printed a mold and then found an artist and mold maker with historic preservation experience to cast replacement lenses, and that's what's on the building now. The original building had cool Art Deco garage doors that later got replaced with regular windows when the Forest Service made it more of just an office building. The renovation does add garage-style doors back along the streetscape to give a trace of the original use. The new construction adds 6 loft-style apartment units, which helps the neighborhood's sense of security and walkability. And every one of those units has a careful and discreet rooftop terrace. Within 200 feet, there are 9 historic or potentially historic buildings, with 2 immediately adjacent. So the sensitive context needed a delicate intervention, and the architects worked carefully through several iterations with the Historic Preservation Commission. I'll leave it just with a note that they submitted photos of the interiors. We don't have them here, but of course the interiors are just as interesting as the outside. Thank you, Randy and team.
Thanks again. Before I say anything, I just want to say how terrific that previous project is. The Platte River Power Authority building is really sets the standard for the kind of buildings that we need more of here in town. And I hope that everyone looks around and observes that building and realizes how special it is and how great it is to have it in town. But back to this project. We couldn't have done this project without Tricia and David Deal. The clients own the building and manage the building, and their offices are in the building. And they allowed us to mess around with some things and encouraged us and actually helped make the building far better than it would have been at the beginning. Also, our team includes Arlo Schumann here, who used to be an important member of our team, and now he's with the city of Fort Collins. So whenever we need something, we just call Arlo to help smooth things away. But thanks again for recognizing this, and hopefully we can continue to be able to do work like this.
Up next is our urban fragments category, which represents a special small-scale piece added to our built environment that contributes to placemaking. That is our unique sense of place. So next up, I'd like to invite the Butterfly Cafe team. The Utilities Administration building on LaPorte Street was built on the site of the historic Poudre Valley Creamery, following years of planning to bring a utilities building into the Civic Center area. The historic creamery building was collapsing and unfortunately could not be saved. However, this little soda fountain at the entrance of the old creamery could be saved. It was a mid-century Googie-style building. You can Googie that for yourself. And its sign was a major feature. As an aside, be sure to see the sign in the background here. A huge discussion by the project team and the city's historic preservation program concluded that saving this would be the best way to incorporate the heritage into the redevelopment. But there was still one major challenge. It was right in front of where the new building's entrance had to be. Another long story short, it was moved 100 feet east in a negotiation process. The angle of its original placement set the pattern for the whole site plan with walkways and plazas, and in its original spot is colored paving now. And in this image, you see Mason in the foreground and LaPorte leading back. And so at that point, it was saved, but no one knew what to do with it. Its future use was still unclear given its unique features and the small size of the building. After surveying people and after the building was moved, the city issued a request for proposals, and the Butterfly Cafe was selected. It was luck to find such an ideal concessionaire, although the luck was the result of creative minds looking for a win-win compromise solution. None of the team could have predicted the dynamic social environment that has grown up around the Butterfly, which demonstrates where the human and community magic comes in. AU Workshop was hired to design it as a cafe with both indoor and outdoor seating, which if you're a city employee, you know well because we all love it.
First of all, we got to
Now I'd like to welcome up the team.
thank City of Fort Collins. Briner got us involved in the project. We were working on the utilities building at the time. Well, part of that whole conversation of what do we do with it? How do we get it? Got us a new spot in the project. We were working on the utilities building approach to actually do the interiors. Part of that whole conversation of was exciting. What do we do with it? How do we get it? Fitting a whole in a new spot, commercial kitchen, accessible restroom, and approach to seating for interior space. It was exciting. 400 square feet, which fitting a whole a little bigger than a hotel kitchen, accessible restroom. It was a good challenge for us. Seating for interior space. For sure, the city was 400 square feet, which is a little bigger than a hotel room. It was a good challenge for us. For sure, the city was a great client to have. So, thank you.
If we have the artists here for In Praise of the Poudre, In Praise of the Poudre people, come on up. For this award, we are back down by the river. This is the plaza that you saw at Confluence, and these sculptures are part of a set that extends west along Willow Street. This art offers messages about the river and how water gets conveyed from mountaintops into our lives here in town. This was all done in conjunction with a city capital project that rebuilt Willow Street. At the corner, these undulating monoliths reflect rhythms and textures of the river, and they feature carvings of plants, animals, insects, and landforms found around and in the river. Artists at, is it Chevo or Chivo? Chevo. Sorry, I tried to. Artists at Chevo Studios hand-carved and removed almost half the starting weight of each column. The big one went to the studio at 30,000 pounds and came out at 16,000 pounds. Illuminated surfaces evoke reflections on water, and they work in concert with very carefully designed lighting in the plaza to comply with the new lighting code standards. Then a series of sculptures was integrated into 3 seating areas along Willow Street extended to the west that represent that conveyance of water through the canyon, through a mill race, and through the modern utility system. This shows the concept. No need to read that text, just look at the concept here and note that each little stop on the way has a haiku. This is canyon. This should be mill race. A mill race once ran along Willow Street from the river to power the town's first flour mill, one of the early industries in Fort Collins, now Ranchway Feeds. This is the concept for pipe. Make sure you see those kids looking clear through the whole block. And then I like how the big monolith can levitate on a shadow if you go there at the right time. Also, artist Susan Daly created more granite sidewalk inlays that continue a set on Linden Street that was awarded at one of these past programs in 2013, in fact. There's a set of those inlays on Linden Street. With that, Thank you. Yeah.
This project took 10 years to realize, and there were 3 people who stayed with us the whole time. Ellen Martin from Art and Public Places, Kyle Lambrick from Engineering, and Nicole Hahn. They never gave up, and I do appreciate that. I also want to acknowledge the Art and Public Places program. We work all over the country, and Fort Collins has one of the most progressive art and public places programs in the nation. It's founded on this very simple idea that if you invite the artists into the design team early, the design will develop more organically and be more reflective of the broader values. So instead of just creating standalone statues, we create places. And Ellen and her crew are amazing, and they deserve a huge round of applause. Also, as Clark noted, these sculptures were not spun out by a 5-axis lathe. They were carved by hand by these 3 gentlemen and myself. Chevo Studios is based on a very simple idea, which is that if you create places with concentration, love, and soul, people will want to be there. And these guys made it happen. William Seal, Aiden Mann, and Ben Carpenter. Fantastic artists all. And then finally, I just want to say thank you to that magic ribbon of water that comes down from the mountains every year and feeds life on the plains. We are all so incredibly fortunate to live in this watershed, and we should continually figure out ways to restore, protect, and enhance that beautiful river. Thank you so much.
The selection committee this year landed on one project in the sustainable design category for a built project that exhibits sustainable design integrated into an engaging urban place. This project is a one-of-a-kind in the Urban Design Awards program, done on the innovation of an HOA in a 1970s townhome complex. So I'd like to invite up the Georgetown Gardens team. The president of the HOA has a construction management background along with a passion for plants, landscapes, and the principles of xeriscape and permaculture. The building exteriors of this complex were in need of maintenance and repairs, and the landscape consisted of lawns that were right up to the building foundations and drained towards those foundations. The HOA set up a debt structure and began renovation, starting with repairs to things like steps and railings and repainting using insulating paint. This project converted 11,000 square feet of the original 1979 turf grass landscape to diverse xeriscape gardens and a garden patio with HOA goals to increase resident benefit, cut resource use, and increase building longevity, as well as building community through gardening and creating 2 gathering spaces, along with pathways that were added for more inviting circulation with the hope to increase the affinity with the Spring Creek Trail corridor, which you can see at the top of this image. The committee saw the significance of this project as an example of an HOA setting goals, budgeting, and developing design solutions in their own community. The association's president, Lane Brugman, managed it with no formal training in landscape design, but he did get assistance from 3 grant-funded programs: the City Xeriscape Incentive Program, a Nature in the City grant, and a Larimer County Small Community Grant. The design of this project was refined over multiple iterations with input from specialists and experts. The new landscape and irrigation system saves water, with more than 400 water-wise plants across 90 species were planted to provide herbs and edible plants, pollinator habitat, and shadow plantings of trees under green ash canopy trees. The project benefits the 24 townhomes and also provides a demonstration for similar HOAs in meeting the challenges of capital projects within HOA structures. In all, the project was a large success as most of the goals have been achieved and community engagement with the landscape has increased substantially. Now I'd like to welcome Lane to the stage.
Thank you so much, especially with the NFL season. You know, it's a strong turnout. So, yeah, first and foremost, I just want to say thank you so much to my family and friends up there for your support, especially my partner, Kayla, who has encouraged me so much in all of this. And chasing this wouldn't be possible without you. And John Fugate with Longleaf Irrigation and Courtney Schaefer with Site 1, who was daring enough to take on such a crazy plant list, and Marco and Jose Reyes, who couldn't be here tonight, who did the install. And just with all the negativity that is around in the media and the crisis that we really are in with climate change, I think realizing that we can have a beneficial impact on the places around us, and we can actually make things better and create empowering relationships with nature is really awesome. And I think this project kind of captures that. And I've seen my first hummingbird on the property after living there for 7 years this year, the first hummingbird moth. So it's really cool to see that we can have a positive impact amidst all the negativity. And to win this award in Fort Collins with all these incredible projects, I felt like it was a total long shot. And so I'm very, very honored and humbled to be here and looking forward to meeting more of the people in this room and working together in the future. So thank you to the City of Fort Collins as well, and all the grants that made it possible, Larimer County as well. And yeah, thank you so much. Support it.
Matt Day, you can come on down here. There was one project in the public spaces category that was the first quick, no-brainer shoe-in for the committee. We're back down by the river with this astoundingly successful project. I've been hanging around there working on this with Matt, and every time I go down here, I just can't even believe what I'm seeing. Having the river corridor wind through these awards like it is, it wasn't on purpose, but highlights how special the river is. I can hardly even do this, so I'm having our colleague in Parks, Matt Day, project manager for this, deliver this presentation. You have your script, or you can just, do that. But,
how are you advancing slides?
Oh, it's automatic. Yeah.
Good luck.
She's made it this far.
Thank you. Like Kirk said, my name is Matt Day. I work in park planning and development. I was the project manager for both the Whitewater Park project as well as the Poudre River Downtown Master Plan, and had the pleasure of working with the same team on both those projects. We're back down by the river, so having the river corridor wind through these awards was not on purpose, but it really highlights how special the river is to the community. The Whitewater Park project, it follows decades of community discussion and debate about accessing the river. It's a polarizing, emotional topic, and everybody is extremely emotional and cares about it. So they were very vocal and let us know exactly what they were thinking, and all spectrums. So community members argued for public access development that included envisioning an urban frontage, like the San Antonio Riverwalk. Others just wanted recreational access to the river. And then another contingent really just wanted to put a fence around it and preserve it for habitat. So these were all valid, but competing interest, and that's very much a Fort Collins thing. They want everything. So it was great. So I'll stick to, try to run through quickly here. There's two great stories surrounding the park. First is the transformation of space, and the second is the relationship with the people to get there. So really this area was super industrial, neglected site, and really there wasn't much attention that was brought to the river until the Superfund project came in about 25 years ago. They cleaned up and remediated a toxic coal tar leak, and that kind of started the efforts to kind of really focus on the river. About 10 years ago, we were able to work on a comprehensive downtown master plan, and it was really to bring together three master plans. Parks had a plan, utilities had a plan, natural areas had a plan, but nowhere had we ever stepped back and kind of looked at comprehensively what that meant when you laid everything together. So out of that plan, the downtown river master plan, the Whitewater Park was envisioned as recommended for the first project to move forward. This was Reach 3. It was one of the reaches that had the most opportunity, but it was also the most complex and presented the most challenges. We had a very large team. Greg, with Anderson Consulting Engineers, we had, I think, up to 15 subs at one point, so we had lots of folks engaged. We have 2 awards tonight, one for the art and one for our team. So we have Anderson Consulting Engineers was the lead engineers on this. BHA were the lead landscape architects, and the artist John Davis worked through our Art in Public Places program. One of the things I think if you reached out to any of the team members is that they would let you know that the things we touched were never done in isolation. And so the whole idea was this was to be a seamless design. We were to blend 3 goals: flood safety and water quality, natural systems and restoration, and really access and amenities for people. Previous efforts had really kind of focused on just one aspect, and they were never really successful, but until we could really blend those things together. And then, as we kind of walk through a little bit, we have the wall, creating we replaced the old wall that held up the cooling towers, and we ran into a little fun along the way. We got into our excavation of taking out the coy diversion, and we found an infiltration gallery. So this used to feed cold water to the cooling towers on the side of the banks. And so it was about 10 feet underneath the river. So unknown, we were already working in a site that had 5 historic designated sites within it. And so to work through the process with the State Historic Office, with the Federal Corps of Engineers, to get all things done, we hired an archaeologist, we documented, we did all these things. We were just on the verge of getting our information back. They said, yes, you can move forward. The next day they shut the government down. One of those just kind of fluked the government shutting down for a couple of weeks. If we didn't get that permission the day we did, there's no way we would have got out of the river in time to meet the city and state standards for working in a riverway. So there was one of these things where we resequenced, we redid a lot of things to try to make this work, but it was just a little fun along the way. Really kind of the big thing here is that we were able to restructure the river, and we created 2 whitewater features, 2 drop features. One was very much a beginner, one's a little bit more technical. They all include fish passage, we measure flow, and we restore more of a natural function to the river. One of the key pieces that we were able to incorporate was the pedestrian bridge. A long desired link between North College and downtown, as well as it set us up for the Poudre Trail so that we can get to that north side of the river and get underneath Linden in the next reach downstream. By reprofiling this river, it really allowed us to layer in things along the lines for access, amenities, restoration, bank protection, and all the wildlife connections. As you can see, we had lots of boulders and rock terraces to step ourselves up and out, as well as we were able to create an overlook plaza with bar seating. This related to the character of the Innovation District and the microbreweries downtown. Other seating was made from repurposed harvest trees on site. And that overlook plaza not only created a place for us to engage with the river from the upper terrace, but it also gave us a shaded wayside gathering place along the Poudre Trail, and it was dearly needed. Some of the fun things, complexity, lighting is just one example of the complex layering and design, trying to balance safety and impacts on nature. And then we have the art pieces. The Urban Design Committee wanted to award Art in Public Places in John Davis with an award. He worked with our team to develop the concept for the whitewater shelter, inspired by the waves, the rushing water, the bubbles, the froth, the whole bit. So you can see the shadows of the bubbles on the ground as the light comes through, as well as he was able to do a second sculpture, which is a heritage marker. It really tied the site to the heritage of and recognizing that this site is the first in-stream recreational water right in Colorado, and it's very important. And so it also tied to water and agriculture, water and industry. So we really had a link through the National Heritage Association to tie our heritage and give the community a way to find out more about them. Lots of fun. So it's really, it's about the community. It's health, safety, and welfare. It's creating these spaces where people can actually engage with the river. And, there's a lot of wins, but it's beyond the kind of transforming the space and placemaking. It was really about people and co-creation with many groups and kind of bringing it back to partnering and the people that we worked with between the stakeholders, fundraisers, even the city working internally with itself. It was challenging. So there's a couple of things I'll just point out that I thought were wins for everybody. The stormwater during that 100-year event, we were able to minimize the overtopping of College. We reduced those floodways, got them back into the channel. That impacted the development opportunities along Vine. We were able to utilize the old Coy ditch, which took the water away. We now created a stormwater basin that brings the water back through the site from the road, from adjacent properties. It cleans it up in an informal LID type situation and actually returns it to the river. We were also able to purchase 7 properties through the Willing Seller, Willing Buyer program that removed them from flood risk. Natural systems, tons of benefits in the wildlife corridor connections, fish passage, restoration, stream bank protection, and tons of planting diversity. When it comes to people, really the community just wanted access to the river. We have ADA access, we have on and off street parking, gathering spaces, seating areas, the overlook plazas, art, interpretive educational elements, the bridge, and of course the drop structures. So I hope, I'd be remiss if I really didn't touch about that collaborative, partnering, outreach, working with CityGive, with the community, all the different pieces that made it come together. So I hope that you can feel the complexity of what we had to work with. I want to send out a huge thank you to Anderson Consulting Engineers and BHA for their talents and helping us work through all the complex issues, navigating the city, all the stakeholders' needs, and they really helped create a wonderful addition to Fort Collins. And with that, Greg and Angie.
As Matt said, that was definitely a very challenging project, but it was very gratifying to work with Matt and Kurt Friesen and the people at Park Planning and the good folks over at Stormwater and also Natural Areas who championed this from the beginning. Especially, I think, we'd be remiss if we didn't recognize John Stokes and his heroic efforts at the beginning of this to make the planning come together. From the beginning of the plant process through design and construction, it was nearly a 7-year adventure, and BHA was with us lockstep all the way. Roger Sherman was very instrumental. He and I spent so many hours on the phone I couldn't even count. Roger couldn't be here today. Angie came in his stead, which we're all thankful for anyway. But as coincidence would have it, Roger and Kurt are down in Denver receiving American Society of Landscape Architects Award for this very same project. So it was a long adventure, and we did work with 15 different sub-consultants through the process, running the gamut of every discipline you could possibly imagine, but everybody was a champion all through the way. And even though the focus really from the beginning was on the whitewater features, which were designed by S2 Engineering down in Lyons, we knew that this would be so much more than just a whitewater or a park for the whitewater experience. It's for so many other people, and as we've seen the way it's been used, it's really satisfying to drive past this multiple times a week and see the different people using it. And that's where BHA's addition to this was so important. And so we were thankful to have them throughout. But really, in the end, we really wanted to make sure that we were providing a huge amenity for the community. We hope that we've done that, and we hope that it lasts for a long, long time to come.
You see Ellen Martin back up there. The artist, the whitewater artist, couldn't be here tonight, so Ellen's just accepting it for him.
We were very excited this year to introduce a new category to the Urban Design Awards, which is for housing. Our housing category is for projects that achieve the city's housing strategic plan vision, that everyone has stable, healthy housing that they can afford. This can include affordable housing, housing designed to serve specific populations, adaptive reuse projects, or sustainability-focused projects that contribute to equitable development and sense of place. So we are pleased to welcome up the Mason Place team. The committee, go ahead. The committee appreciated the addition of the category this year, but it added to their difficult deliberations because of the great housing projects that were submitted. Ultimately, the committee selected Mason Place as an award winner, a permanent supportive housing project that adaptively reused the former Midtown Arts Center to serve chronically unhoused people, and specifically those with disabilities and/or who are veterans. City strategies support this type of permanent supportive housing as the priority solution to address homelessness in our community. Housing Catalyst planned to reuse the structure of the existing building, but they found the costs and risks were too high, so they had to demolish and redevelop the building while still reusing the foundation and expensive core components. Mason Place implements the city's Midtown plans for the city's spine near the Max and the Mason Trail with pedestrian and bike-friendly streetscapes and urban design. Trauma-informed design provides a safe, comfortable, private, secure home. There are 60 fully furnished apartments, convenient laundry rooms, a medical room, exercise room, a dog wash, and indoor and outdoor community spaces. Housing Catalyst's philosophy is that beautiful and livable buildings can be achieved without being too expensive, and they know how important quality is to building community and respect. A very long story short, collaboration with everyone who could help led to success through iterations on countless concepts and details. And now I'd like to invite up the Mason Place team.
Come on up. So I'm joined up here this evening by our Housing Catalyst Board of Commissioners, as well as some members from our design team, Ripley Design. Shopworks Architecture was the architect for this project. They weren't able to join us. So a project like this, clearly, it takes an army. We were able to deliver 60 units of housing for people who didn't used to have a place to call home, and that's certainly the biggest accomplishment. And having a building that we believe is beautiful and thoughtfully designed, not necessarily more expensive, we really appreciate all of the support that we had from the city in this concept. When we first bought the Midtown Art Center and I brought the architect up to the building, and we were so excited. We thought the location is perfect, the size is perfect, and we were walking around, he said, I think we're gonna need to add some windows. So the whole concept of turning this whole block of a building that used to be a movie theater into 60 beautiful apartments where people can now call it home, with an atrium, with live plants growing inside. It really, truly is a special place. We're certainly very proud of this building, and we really appreciate the city adding this category of housing. We believe at Housing Catalyst that we are a part of community building, and we value the design and the challenge that we're always given to really elevate the design of all of our projects. So thank you so much, and thank you to the whole team of people who are certainly all responsible for making this project so successful.
Very good. Now we have the actual Hall of Fame category and the Hall of Fame award. You remember, this award's always been to honor, meant to honor a person or firm for their body of work over time, but this year the selection committee took it in a little different direction. As Karen said back at the beginning, because of their struggle to deal with all of the great projects, but especially this Transformer Cabinet murals program, which isn't really just a project, and it is kind of a body of work, just that it's done by an unaffiliated assemblage of individual artists. It was a lively and perceptive discussion by the committee, because now you can see Transformer art in cities around the country. It's becoming almost commonplace. So it's not as unique to our local sense of place as some of the other projects, and some committee members noted that. However, other members noted that it all started here almost 3 decades ago in 1994. Other cities have caught on, and they've been calling and copying the program since then, but it started here, and that was what swayed the committee. So the committee, that's a reason, all the more reason to honor it. In the end, they consciously decided to sort of use the Hall of Fame category for this. Sort of fits the concept for that whole body of artists. By the way, this is the first cabinet that was done, this set of 3 cabinets here. I can truly vouch, I remember seeing this for the first time and being astounded at the audaciousness of this graffiti, which is what I thought. It hit me. Walking down this alley, it hit me. This started as a collaboration between the city's Art and Public Places program and Utilities, Light and Power as a graffiti abatement program. The murals lower maintenance costs for utilities while they're obviously adding colorful art in surprising places. The original idea came from Craig Bader, electrical engineer with the city and now director of the electric engineering part of Light and Power. Something like that. Every year, the APP team selects artists and develops mural concepts with a utilities project team to be painted in the summer. And here we go to take a look at, by the way, some sampling that we had good photographs of, but there are 400 of these, and we're not going to show you all 400. And Ellen, you can bring your team on over.
Well, what started with a spark of an idea really became an arc that electrified the project and was carried by so many other people than just even the people that we see here. It's been a huge undertaking, and I want to thank, first of all of you for accepting the pun that I just threw out. But I want to thank Ellen Martin and Art and Public Places team that's helped us out, all of the Light and Power folks who have been drafted and have become strong members of the team and supported the project over the years. I'd like to let Ellen have some words here too.
Yeah, so we also want to thank all the amazing artists. All the local artists have worked with us on this project. So we are only working with local artists, and I think we counted just an estimate about 86 artists working with us so far as the program continues year to year. And again, Craig, thanks for starting the program with us, and all our great utility partners through the years, and APP staff. It certainly has been a great team, and we have always appreciated the opportunity to spread the art throughout town by painting these boxes. So we really appreciate the award, and thank you, everyone.
Thank you also to the board for supporting us.
Yes, and I have board members here too. Our APP board has been a great supporter for the project forever too, so thank you. I think I have a few members here. Thank you.
That's it. This all makes me want to go out there and stoop over and pick up trash when I see it, at least the plastic trash, to take care of this pretty little city of Fort Collins. If you want to hear one more thing, CSU football season starting pretty soon. I was over there for a game 2 years ago when Arkansas came here. Great big football thing. The whole town turned red with these Arkansas people, and a lady came up to me. I don't know what, just bumped into her out in front of the stadium or something, and didn't have my city stuff on or anything. And but we were talking, and she says, "I traveled to all the away games for the Arkansas Razorback football team." Google on their chant, by the way. It just makes the hair stand up on the back of your neck. But she said, "I traveled to all the away games in all these other cities. This is the cleanest city I've ever seen." We have to do this again in we can't go 3 years again. Global pandemics permitted, permitting, we'll see you in 2024.